Unfortunately, WWE had other ideas, as they decided to debut DDP as a villainous stalker.
No, he didn't deserve it. He turned down a bunch of money to sit at home to come and help wrestling for the fans. Today, we're going to be taking a look at a video from the homeboys over at Wrestlelamia. 10 WWE gimmicks that were given as punishment. Do these wrestlers deserve the punishment that they got? I don't know. Let's wrestle it. Ding! Ding!
10 WWE gimmicks that were given as a punishment. Number 10, Dusty Rhodes. A WWE signing Dusty Rhodes in the late 80s was a huge deal. Rhodes was without a doubt...
I'll tell you right now already. No, he did not deserve it. I don't know why he got that crappy polka dotted outfit, but no, he did not deserve it. So we wrestled that one.
One of the biggest names in pro wrestling, and he was a household name that would have reignited the main event scene in WWE. And it was Vince McMahon who decided to assign Rhodes the gimmick of the common man who would wear cartoonish black and yellow polka dots. This was a baffling move, and it was theorized by fans as well as other wrestling personalities that McMahon didn't care that he had a name like Rhodes on his roster. All he wanted to do was humiliate him. According to Jim Ross on his podcast, he firmly believes that the gimmick was a rib. I think it was a rib. I have a hard time being able to defend that it wasn't. And I think Dusty was a key player with the competition, and without calling out the competition, without doing any billionaire Ted skits as we saw later on, I think it was a subtle way to throw a little shade on Dusty because he was a top babyface, the booker, and the owner's right-hand man. This backwards booking was highly detrimental to Rhodes' success in WWE, and it was yet another example of McMahon putting his own malicious motives at the forefront. Number 9, Perry Saturn. Now, upon going off on Jobber Mike Bell during the WWE Jack match in 2000, WWE decided to...
Okay, so if you know, you know. And Perry, yes, you did deserve it. I'm being real about that.
Punish Perry Saturn by giving him an embarrassing gimmick. This gimmick was likely designed not to just humiliate the former European champion, but to also make Saturn an afterthought in the eyes of the fans. Following receiving a head trauma during the match with the APA, Saturn began to act incredibly different. He'd become more eccentric and he'd fall in love with a mop known as Moppy. Whilst it sounds totally ridiculous, it somehow managed to get Saturn over, as the fans loved how ridiculous the whole character was. Whilst intended to fail due to the positive fan response.
Here's how the average man's life.
We got an ad right now, viewer mares.
Day one.
This ad needs punished. We're gonna give it a new character, and the character is gonna be.
Reception.
Oh, never mind.
WWE had no choice but to give Saturn a mini push, and he even received a pay-per-view match at the 2001 Unforgiven pay-per-view against Raven. Number 8, R-Truth. R-Truth is prone to excelling in any gimmick WWE gives him, and in 2011, when R-Truth decided to smoke during an episode of Raw in the UK, Vince McMahon decided to give him a new gimmick that would act as a punishment. The new gimmick would see R-Truth having an...
Okay, I'll be honest. This one, I'm calling cap on this one. First off, you're not just gonna smoke a cigarette around thousands of people while you're on the job, on the clock. That had to be a direction given to him, if you're asking me. And possibly because it's probably illegal to do that in an arena full of that many people in the UK as opposed to the United States, where there's a crap ton of anti-smoking areas. And also this little Jimmy thing, that was because he was in a feud with John Cena. It just kind of turned into a comedy thing, if you ask me. Granted, I wasn't there. I'm not saying Wrestlelamia is making this up. They more than likely have their sources, and I'm just probably wrong about everything. But we're going to wrestle this one too. R-Truth did not deserve it. Not at all. If you watch Ron the Truth Killings, it's some old school NWA. you'll realize that that heel character he was doing in his feud with John Cena, it was toned down, but it was basically his Ron Killings NWA character.
Imaginary friend known as Little Jimmy. In typical Truth fashion, although the gimmick was designed to flop and humiliate him, it did the complete opposite. Truth made it work and it managed to enhance his already riveting heel persona. This was simply a testament to Truth's abilities, and there's a reason that Truth has been cemented in the main role on TV since 2008. Number 7. Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. WrestleMania 3 saw Ricky Steamboat steal the show alongside Randy Savage, yet despite Steamboat walking out of the match as new Intercontinental Champion, his reign would be short-lived. Steamboat would ask for time off to be with his newborn child, and in typical Vince McMahon fashion, he held this against Steamboat for the rest of his career. McMahon wanted the Intercontinental Champion that could tour, so he decided to have him drop the title to the Honky Tonk Man. When Steamboat returned, he was treated much differently by McMahon, and when he had another run in the company in 1991, he was simply referred to as The Dragon, and WWE would bizarrely act as if The Dragon was this new character that fans had never seen before.
True. I also think some of those things were probably also there to enhance Ricky's character and to make him a bigger attraction. That's just my 2 cents on it. I don't even consider this necessarily a character change, personally. But as far as him dropping the strap to Honky Tonk, I mean, like, well, if it was my company, I'd be like, okay, I understand. But what's best for business is that, you know, we need to be able to tell people, hey, the WWF is coming to your town, and we got the Intercontinental Champion. You know what I'm saying? So
The Dragon gimmick was without a doubt a direct punishment, although WWE executives such as Bruce Pritchard like to claim that the gimmick was designed to reintroduce the fans to Steamboat. This is clearly utter nonsense. A guy like Ricky Steamboat didn't need a gimmick like this. Number 6. Piggy.
you can claim that all you want. And I'm not totally disagreeing with Wrestlelamia. I'm just gonna throw on a little argument to that, okay? Look at Stone Cold Steve Austin. If Stone Cold Steve Austin just went out there and had 20-minute matches every Monday night, would that many people love Stone Cold Steve Austin that much? The answer, no. They would not. You need to enhance his character. You need the beer trucks. You need all the shenanigans that came with a Stone Cold Steve Austin. The monster trucks, the pickup trucks, the Zamboni. You need all those things. Granted, you could argue that point and just say, well, that was the amazing writing of Vince Russo. And I would agree with you on that too. So it's really an interesting point. But I'm going to say, yeah, Steamboat deserved that. This next one, Mickie James. I don't know what happened, but I just got a hunch that she did not deserve it.
Mickie James. Revolving a wrestling character around their weight is never a good idea, and in 2009, WWE came up with the insane idea of branding Mickie James as Piggy James. The angle featured the villainous duo of LayCool poking fun at James's weight, and despite the fan reception to the angle being extremely low, WWE persisted with the angle for months. It's widely believed that the character acted as a direct punishment for James and John Cena's relationship coming to an end, and this was just incredibly petty behavior from WWE management. According to James during an interview on the Ring the Bella podcast, the storyline was an extremely hard storyline to deliver. It was hard at the moment, and I think it was hard for everyone in order to do it. There would be times like, oh, I think this might be a little too far, but I will say the end goal was to get Michelle and Layla over as monster heels, and as big heels, and I think I was very successful in that retrospect. I think that...
Another ad, another character change. You deserve punished, ad. Your new character Well, it's gonna
For
be...
that generation of people,
Okay, never
especially
mind,
now
sorry.
with speaking out and anti-bullying, it's given people the power of their voice because words are so powerful. Extra criticism was directed towards WWE as they were running the BA Star anti-bullying campaign at the time, and it was seen by many as total hypocrisy. Number 5. D'Lo Brown. D'Lo Brown...
You looking at the real deal now! Woo! Okay, sorry. Underrated right here.
was one of the most underrated stars of the Attitude Era, yet as the era went on, he was moved dramatically down the card. By mid-2000, WWE had no interest in featuring Brown in major roles on TV, and despite this, they decided to give Brown a new gimmick which completely annihilated his credibility, and the gimmick was so atrocious that it destroyed any chance that Brown had to...
That's because when Vince Russo left the WWF had no idea what to do with anyone. They hardly even knew what to do with a Stone Cold Steve Austin. Look at Stone Cold Steve Austin from October 1999 onward. It's still great just because it's Stone Cold Steve Austin, but in comparison to Stone Cold Steve Austin 1997 to 99, it's trash. Hell, they didn't even know what to do with The Undertaker. They said, you know what, man, just go be yourself. That's what you want to do anyway. So, whatever.
To move back up the card. That gimmick in question would see Brown join forces with Chaz in a tag team known as Lowdown. The tag team was the definition of mid, and they even had Tiger Ali Singh joining the team to become their manager. The tag team would come down in a Punjabi-like attire and Sikh turbans, and the motives behind Brown's gimmick change were never really fully explored on television. Unfortunately, Brown classes the gimmick as the lowest point of his career, which is completely understandable. Number 4, Shelton Benjamin.
Yeah, D'Lo Brown did not deserve it. He just didn't. I don't know what Shelton Benjamin did, but let's find out.
In 2005, a report surfaced
Ain't no stopping me now!
online that Shelton Benjamin had backstage heat. An extract from the initial 2005 report from WrestleZone reads, one source within WWE says that Shelton Benjamin's string of losses over the past few months was punishment for behavior directed at a veteran road agent. The Torch newsletter described the behavior as a blatant negative and disrespectful attitude shown toward at least one veteran road agent. In a move that clearly wasn't a coincidence, just a matter of weeks after this report surfaced, Benjamin was giving a new gimmick where his mama would become an on-air character. This gimmick was comedic in nature, and it didn't exactly make Benjamin look great during the early stages. And in a weird twist of fate, the gimmick managed to get over as Benjamin and the Mama character connected to the fans, and it actually managed to enhance the matches of Benjamin as...
Hey, isn't it crazy how they try to punish Shelton Benjamin with giving him, the Buff Bagwell character, and then it actually got over. But the Buff Bagwell character didn't get over just because it was WCW and it wasn't WWE. Ain't that crazy?
There was now no more sports entertainment elements to his presentation. Benjamin would even receive a substantial push with the gimmick, which culminated him in winning the Intercontinental title from Ric Flair on Raw in early 2006. Number 3, Mark Henry.
Yeah, Shelton did not deserve it. I've never met Shelton Benjamin, obviously. But I do know a lot of times in big companies, you have big egos, and just even you trying to speak to them as a respectful adult calmly and intellectually can be viewed as, oh, you're being hard to work with and disrespectful. When in reality, you're just trying to be a team player. So, Shelton Benjamin did not deserve it.
Over the years, there have been endless gimmicks that have been placed on TV to make Vince McMahon laugh. This was no doubt the case when Mark Henry debuted his sexual chocolate persona in 1999. According to Henry, McMahon found the gimmick utterly hilarious, and on paper, the gimmick should have flopped, but Henry put his life...
Well, it didn't flop because you had Vince Russo writing it. The highlights of the Attitude Era, honestly, were the small scenes that were threaded out through Raw. For example, Mark Henry going on a date with China. Bro, that's great TV. That's great writing. And then you get back to like your typical wrestling storylines. Dude, that was good stuff.
Life and soul into the character. The gimmick was outlandish in nature and it went beyond Henry being a ladies' man, as he would start a romance with Mae Young, and the two would even have a baby hand together.
Vince Russo gets blamed for this right here. That was all Vince McMahon. Russo wasn't there anymore. Just keep that in mind.
Now, there have been prominent rumors for years that WWE would often give Henry gimmicks with the intention of making him quit. However, this evidently didn't work. It's worth noting that Henry, as well as top WWE names, have denied that this was the WWE's intention, but it's an interesting rumor to say the very least.
Another ad? You know what, ad? You're looking at the real deal now! And you know what? You better keep...
Number 2, Brodus Clay.
Okay, never mind.
But during vignettes promoting Brodus...
Before I even rant about this, okay, Mark Henry didn't deserve any of that. It was great storytelling and yada yada here and there, and that's awesome. His greatest character would come when he actually became the monster that he could be in the Hall of Pain. I loved that. His whole rivalry with Big Show, I loved that. Especially when you're there live and you get to see those two huge, massive, strong individuals collide and do what they do best. That was amazing. Okay, now time to rant about Brodus Clay. I don't know what he did. Or if it's just Vince McMahon. It's probably just Vince McMahon. But there is no reason an athletic, agile, articulate, well-spoken, smart, angry, mean-looking monster like Brodus Clay should have been out there talking about, I call my mama. No. Absolutely not. No, he did not deserve it. I don't even know what Wrestlelamia is going to say, but I'm just telling you right now, he didn't deserve it.
Clay's return to television, it seemed like Clay was going to be given a monster push with his serious, legitimate character.
Yeah.
However, when Clay debuted on TV with a dancing gimmick, fans were collectively speechless. Clay would now be known as the Funkasaurus, and this character descended from Planet Funk on a mission to move booties and mash bodies. The issue with the gimmick was that it had a short shelf life. Dancing gimmicks can only get wrestlers so far, and this was the case here. With that being said, WWE committed a ton of resources to the character, and they even gave the Planet Funk resident a big segment at WrestleMania 28. Speaking to Robbie E., the former WWE star stated that Triple H wanted him to be the next big top heel in WWE, but it was McMahon who wanted him to be a comedic character. Triple H had me ready to be his next big heel. He had no desire to do the Funkasaurus thing. The old man Vince McMahon thought I was funny, and somehow being funny in the locker room equates to dancing in the ring. Was I disappointed? I knew Funkasaurus wasn't winning the world championship, but I knew Brodus Clay could have. I knew that my role wasn't going to be the guy that got the party started or kept him in the seats like Junkyard Dog or even Dusty Rhodes himself, which he claimed I was being punished for his sins. It was always one of my favorite lines, because you're mine, you're being punished for my sins. And the gimmick would last around 15 months before it began to get stale, and WWE were forced to abandon the gimmick and go in a completely different direction with him. And number 1, Diamond Dallas Page. When WWE...
Oh boy. I am surprised. I did not see this one coming. First off, bang! Okay. DDP did not deserve it. You're talking about, you're doing this invasion angle. Of course you had, Booker T and Mike Awesome. Oh God, what was that tag team's name? on goodness gracious, I cannot remember that tag team's name. But anyway, out of everyone that they had, they chose to do DDP like this. Don't get me wrong, the story leading up to his debut and then his debut, awesome. But it's where they chose to go with it afterwards. They just kept on with it. Like, that was not his intention. His intention for doing those things was to, be dark and mysterious, to creep out a dark and mysterious person like The Undertaker to get his attention. Then after that, they just had Undertaker's wife straight up just, pin our boy DDP. And that's not a good thing. That's a bad thing.
We brought in DDP and
No, he didn't deserve it. He turned down a bunch of money to sit at home to come and help wrestling for the fans.
2001, the belief of the fans was that DDP would be delivering a WWE version of his widely celebrated WCW persona. DDP was insanely over with the WCW fans, and it would have easily been a top babyface in WWE if they allowed him to portray a similar version to the character that was present on WCW television. Unfortunately, WWE had other ideas, as they decided to debut DDP as a villainous stalker. You begin to stalk The Undertaker's
Chronic, that was the name of the WCW tag team, Chronic. Yeah, they had Chronic, and they didn't do crap with them either. They made him look bad in the ring and just yelled at him and broke character. I love The Undertaker, but it is what it is.
Wife, and this gimmick was destined to crash and burn, as nobody wanted to see DDP in such a sinister and chilling role. Could this gimmick have worked if it had been a different wrestler? Well, possibly, but the nature of the gimmick is hard to develop, as it's basically a dead-end character that's hard to recover from. DDP struggled greatly when the feud with The Undertaker came to an end, and his subsequent gimmick struggled to take off, as his stock had dropped to such an all-time low that the fans now saw him as a lower card talent. According to DDP during an interview with Inside the Ropes, accepting the gimmick was both the worst and best thing he ever did in his career. When I tell you it was the worst decision I made and the best decision I ever made in my life, I don't say anything. What I should have said was, it's a great idea for someone else. When you want to do the People's Champion versus the People's Champion, call me. If I walk out there, get in an elevator, I'm not going to make it to the airport. You would have called me back and brought me right back in. I didn't do that. Why is this the best decision? Why was it the best decision? It made me a much smarter businessman. Whilst the gimmick was indeed atrocious, it ultimately didn't hinder DDP's legacy, as the majority of fans were able to see that the gimmick was down to a bad creative direction rather than the efforts of DDP himself. But there you have it, folks. 10 WWE gimmicks that were given as a punishment.
Right on. There you have it, viewer mares. Let me know what you think, viewer mares. And remember, as always, win, lose, or draw. Man, the match is over! Now ring the bell. Ding! Ding!